We are live.
All right.
Give folks a few minutes to come in.
This music is just like...
We've got our lo-fi music.
What was this one called?
Daydreaming.
Daydreaming.
Yeah, that's a good thing for the podcast. We're daydreaming about what we want the working world to look like.
Setting the table. I love it.
Yep. Awesome. We'll be live in about 25 seconds. Whenever people will probably start tuning in. If people are here early, please drop in the chat. Introduce yourself. I want to hear from who's here. I want to see who's here. That will help us feel like we are not alone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seriously, now you got to go listen to 07. This is very...
Yeah, I will go listen to 07.
It's like 07, Thievery Corporation. I'm like right back into like early 2000s right now.
I love it.
This is good. Every podcast should have this.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, there's my sister, Carly. Hi, Carly. Thank you for joining us. I'm going to give people just a few more seconds. Hey, Joseph. Joseph is my podcast mentor. He has paved the way.
Joseph, your content is fire, bro. Fire.
Please don't troll us today, Joseph. Please.
Only serious questions. The satire, I love the satire, but I can't translate it in real time when I'm live.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn our daydreaming music off and kick us off. So, hey, everybody, welcome to the Career Chronicles, where we will be chronicling the stories of women in the workplace and those who champion us, with the intention to increase inclusivity and excellence in recruitment and retention. As you may know, this is our very first episode, and I am so excited to introduce the podcast, introduce myself, and introduce our inaugural guest. Krystal and I agreed yesterday that that's what I would refer to her as, and I'm very excited. For those of you who don't know, I want to take a minute to thank our sponsor for the podcast as well, Spyglass Partners. This is my team and my organization that I work for. And they have been incredibly supportive and encouraging, getting me to this point to kick off a podcast. So thank you guys. This wouldn't be happening if it weren't for you. And to tell you all a little bit more about why I wanted to do the podcast, the purpose is actually twofold, which sounds more highly academic than it is. But I'm a technical recruiter by trade, and I hear time and time again that hiring managers, especially in tech, they want to hire more women, send us more women candidates. And that's great. We can do that. But I'm always thinking, what are these organizations actually doing to make change and better attract and recruit and retain women and support them once they're there? So the hope for this podcast is that we'll be able to talk about our experiences, highlight the guest experiences, and share some insights and some simple changes that organizations can make. Secondly, I'm always impressed by the women that I meet, and I am a big champion for other women. I am a big sister to two younger sisters and have been a protector and champion since like the age of 2. So that's hardwired into me. And now that I am a mom to a daughter, I'm even a bigger protector than I was before. So I don't think there's enough platforms. I don't think it's possible for there to be enough platforms for women to share their stories. So this is a place for that as well. And I, since becoming a mom, have become even more passionate about supporting people when they return to work, whether that's post having a baby, caring for a loved one, or another reason that they've taken a career break to care for themselves. So in today's episode, that's what we're going to be focusing on. How can managers support people who are returning to work? How can hiring managers pull from this group of talent? So I'm really excited to introduce our guest, Krystal Hicks. Krystal is a career strategist and the founder of Job Talk, which is a career counseling practice that provides inclusive and accessible one-on-one support to professionals in transition, as well as employer branding and RPO services to companies looking to improve how and who they hire. Prior to starting this practice in 2019, Krystal spent 11 years in staffing, career services, and corporate recruitment, most recently overseeing all of U.S. hiring for Lindt Chocolate's U.S. headquarters in Stratham, New Hampshire. And I hope I'm saying that correctly because my New England.
Stratum. Time. Yep.
These New England city names. My New England coworkers get me all the time with the Massachusetts and New Hampshire names. I knew I wouldn't get it right.
That's okay.
Should have asked you beforehand. But while she was there, she was helping expand diversity and overhaul their employer brand, hiring over 220 corporate roles. Krystal also has a background in higher education like myself and has served as the Director of Career Services for the University of New Hampshire and spent 3 years facilitating a weekly pre-release employment program for inmates at the Stratford County Department of Corrections. In 2017, she was recognized as one of the Seacoast 10 to Watch winners in her economic development work and continues to teach her college to career courses for undergraduate students at the University of New Hampshire. So if you can't tell already, Krystal is amazing. We are so lucky to have you here for our first podcast. And I just think your experience is very well suited for the topic that we want to talk about today, supporting people after a career break. So
thank you.
To jump in and kick off, I want to just start very broadly. If you want to speak on your experience supporting candidates or job seekers who are looking to make that jump back into work after a break, give us a quick overview about your experience with that.
Sure. So obviously jobs have been my job for about 16 years and throughout a whole bunch of different stops that I've made, right? Especially in career services, working at a community college, working with people who were coming back for night classes that maybe had kids early or had to step out of the workforce or whatever. So my whole career, there's sort of been this through line of this demographic that I've worked with. And to be honest, sometimes it's women and moms, right? Sometimes it's been dads, to be honest, single dads. Sometimes it's been veterans, who had to take a leave. Or sometimes at this point, we're also seeing a lot of folks that are stepping out to take care of aging parents. We're living longer, we're working longer, we're, still dealing with how to reconcile, care for people while managing a full-time career. And it's a really tall order for most people. So I've worked with sort of every kind of demographic that's experienced what we'll call a career break, and helping them navigate either back into their old space or figuring out what else is out there for me now. I mean, sometimes people are taking 7 or 8 years off, get their kids into school, right? And by the time they come out, there's whole new spaces that didn't even exist when they were working before that they're actually a really good fit for now. But the question is, how do we make it happen? So everybody has different challenges, and we definitely don't want to speak to people like they're a monolith of everyone who takes a career break is the same kind of challenge coming back. Everyone has their stuff, but no, I really enjoy working with that population, actually.
Yeah. And I appreciate that you're mentioning the different types of populations that might have a career break and might be coming back from one. I know top of mind, that we always most often think about is moms returning to work, but it could apply to a number of different folks who take career breaks. I talked to many software engineers who are coming back from a mental health break or some sort of, personal sabbatical that they just needed to take, or maybe they got a good severance package post a layoff and they wanted to take some time because when else do we get breaks in our life to, travel or do something fun? So what are the most common concerns or challenges that you hear from people who are looking to return to work following a career break?
All the normal ones, right? Like, oh God, people are going to think I forgot how to do this job. I did this job for 15 years and then I left for 3 years. Why are they thinking I couldn't step back in and do this? So there's just a lot of really that kind of feeling, But I think that, there is a real sense of people either love or hate the term imposter syndrome, but I see it with my clients where women are literally saying to me half the time, I don't actually know what to expect when I go back into the workplace. Is it the same? It's probably different, different tech, different systems. There's a lot of concerns, I think, about the upskilling piece, but we have such great resources for that now too. So typically if you can introduce people to LinkedIn Learning or even Coursera, some of the free resources that are out there to help people upskill, the confidence tends to come back more quickly with that. So I'm always very quick to try to lean in with people and say, where's the anxiety coming in? Where's the self-deprecating thoughts or behaviors, right? Are we self-sabotaging? Are we saying we're ready, but we're actually not ready? That's a whole part of the dialogue before you can even tactically help people make the move back into work. There's a lot of stuff going on that I think we're kind of our own worst enemy at times. So getting over that hump, I think, is the first big challenge.
Yeah, for sure. And we've talked a little bit about this, that hiring managers can sometimes be in their own way when they're, setting up these job descriptions where they want a candidate who has used every single technology or system that is going to be involved in that role. Have you talked to hiring managers about this issue of, if you're requiring one, two, three different pieces of technology that maybe are newer, didn't exist when this person took a career break? How are they limiting their talent pool when they set themselves up like this?
That's a great question. I mean, I think the word limit is important here, right? Because I think a lot of times, 80% of the folks that I work with are job seekers, but 20% of my time I'm spending with companies for these exact same on these challenges. When I was in corporate recruitment as well too, like I remember sitting down with my hiring managers and being like, I understand why you want to put this in the job description, but when you say this is how candidates actually read that. And so if we don't want to limit, if we don't want to choke out our funnel here of candidates, like we have to think bigger. We have to be creative. Some of the things I'm hearing from clients, corporate clients, is they'll say, we want to attract more women, but, we don't know what they even want now. Like we don't even know how to, sell to the employee experience now, because since COVID, it's like everybody wants everything. And I'm like, we'll pump the brakes.
Flexible work schedules.
like we're actually not asking for the sun, moon, and stars here. And so I think
we want to be treated like human beings.
Equitable pay. Yeah, who would have thought? So there is something to be said about language in job descriptions. I really applaud companies like HubSpot. I've actually seen some nonprofits recently who had great language in their job descriptions that said, if you are even half qualified for this job, but you're really interested and you really love our company, we still want to hear from you.
I think that
language, like it's so welcoming, and it's going to actually help to break down some of that imposter syndrome probably that's setting in for people. But I also think sometimes candidates don't always realize, like with job descriptions, hiring managers are unicorn hunting half the time. They're not really thinking that they're going to get 10 out of 10 things on this job description. So
you're just listing them all probably so they can remember what they are.
Literally.
It's like, I just need to catalog this somewhere.
Yeah. Like the number of times I've actually met hiring managers that are like, oh, wow, I actually love this candidate. And I'm like, interesting, because that's only not the one fraction of what you told me you wanted, that you were really hard lined about. So I was kind of tongue in cheek say that hiring managers don't really know great talent until it's in front of them, because I think it comes in all shapes and sizes and forms and backgrounds. And I think that when we're talking about people coming off career breaks, reminding people of that and saying, hey, like, this is the reality. I know the story that you're telling yourself about this process and that you're not good enough, or that people are going to see you as being, your skills are dusty or whatever. You have to remember that these hiring managers are building job descriptions because they don't have a candidate pool in front of them yet. They're just casting that line. They're putting the biggest, chunkiest piece of bait on that hook that they possibly can, hoping someone bites. Yeah. But they'd probably consider most people that bite, so it's just important to kind of get us away from this. I was going to say, like, Churchill, perfection is the enemy of progress. Like, we're aiming for progress. We want to have conversations. Hiring managers have to think that way too.
Yes, so they do. And I think that's a big part of our job as a recruiter, is partnering with the hiring managers and having deeper conversations about what are you actually looking for? What do you need this person to do? You've got this laundry list of very nitty-gritty skills and tasks, but somebody who brings these qualities and characteristics can pick all of that up. Mm-hmm. So having those honest conversations with hiring managers, I think, is really important. And we know women are more likely to, have that imposter syndrome when they're looking at a job description. We've seen that study that says, I'm going to mess up the statistics, I'm sure, but that when men match, a lower percentage of qualifications on a job description, they're more likely to apply than a woman. Mm-hmm. A woman's looking to meet 100% of the things on the job description before they apply. So,
and that tracks that was what I hear from women, right? Like, hey, I saw this job and I don't really know, like, I don't think I'm qualified enough. And I'm like, why wouldn't we be applying?
Why wouldn't you be? Yeah. Go ahead and apply. What's
shoot your shot.
Shoot your shot. Go for it. I mean, if it's not going to take up too much of your time, put yourself out there and try. I also wanted to ask you, as we're talking about, job seekers who are returning from work, what are some of the, transferable skills and experiences that these folks bring to the table. And again, I know they're not a monolith, and I know they each are everyone's gonna have individual qualities, but what are some things that they can, showcase about themselves? When you're coming back from a career break, you do have value, you do have a unique perspective. What are some of those things that you've talked to candidates about?
I think for a lot of people, they get very caught up in, what can I do for you? Let me sell you on what I can do for you. So they just start throwing a ton of transferable skills at people, and the resume is just all transferable skills. And it's like, yes, this is good. But I think that it's really important I always kind of say, when recruiters are looking at resumes, right? We don't know what we don't know. We're kind of at the mercy of what a candidate shares with us on a resume, right?
100%.
So there's almost an onus on the candidate to say, you kind of need to over communicate at times. Why did you leave that role? Or what was the gap even for? I've told so many women, oh my gosh, it's 2024. If you took 3 years off to raise some kids, or 8 years off to raise some kids, whatever, just put a line on the resume that says, took a career break to start a family.
Yeah.
And then move on. I don't need
there's this idea that that's taboo.
Yeah. Like, I don't need the whole, the thing that I think a lot of people, this is probably going to be an unpopular opinion, but the whole, I'm the CEO of my household, and they track out this whole section on the resume of CEO. I'm like, you don't need to do that.
We shouldn't have to justify or validate what we've done.
Exactly. I don't need, because you're trying to shave off square edges to slide into a round hole here for someone else. Own your story and recognize too, and this goes with any kind of discrimination, right? Whether it's or bias, right? If they're going to discriminate against you, is it really a place you want to work? Period.
Yeah.
Because if it's happening in the screening process, you don't think it's going to happen during onboarding and when you're actually comfortable, and you know what I mean? So I think that it's really important for women to, again, not just focus on the transferables of what have I done? What did I accomplish? Who are you? Who do you want to be in this next place that you go work? And I think that deserves real estate on the resume. And it's different than a cover letter, right? I'm just not even a fan of cover letters. They invite in so much bias in the process. That's a whole other session. Yeah. I only help people make them because we have to, because some companies still require these things because it's 1950. Right. But this is where the resume has this summary section up top, hopefully. Tell me who you are, right? Say to me that you're, recognized by peers for being the go-to person for X, Y, and Z, tapped by local organizations to spearhead fundraising initiatives for your kid's school or whatever it may be, right? But you can talk to me about who you are in your community, who you are with your people. This is kind of so much more valuable than checking off some boxes of what you did back in the day.
Right.
I need to see that experience still on your resume, but who are you now? Because I'm sorry, I'm going to just go on a limb here and say maybe a couple kids changed you a little bit, maybe changed the value structure. You care about different things now. You know what I'm saying? So there's just something or let's say that you're dealing with an aging parent, or you're putting a parent in a nursing home or something. This is highly emotional stuff, right? So who you are, as recruiters, we're always looking at people you're the sum of all of your parts. These are big parts to your life. It's going to come into play. And I'm sorry, but I don't mind that you have kids. No. Our team has lots of people that are parents on it. You're going to be you're fitting in nicely with the rest of the team here. So, I just think we have to move past that ignorance of people have kids and they never took a career break to make that happen. At some point, someone had to take the sacrifice.
We're not given the luxury.
Women are the ones taking the sacrifice. Yeah. So I just think own it and stress who you are. How does your community view you? Right. And the thing that I'll say to just round out this answer is, a lot of people always say, oh, it's all about who you know. I always kind of say it's more about who knows you and how do they feel about what they know about you. And if you have these people that are in your circle, get them to leave you LinkedIn recommendations that publicly sit on your profile, that speak to the world about how collaborative you are, how great your project management skills are, or whatever it is. This is what it's about, get other people to advocate and champion for you. You don't have to hold all of this on your shoulders yourself.
Yeah, LinkedIn is a very powerful tool that I think is underutilized because
Totally.
it has all these sections that if you're not on here day in and day out as a recruiter, our jobs require us to be on here constantly. But if you're not on there a lot, you may not know that there's the recommendation section, there's
Yeah.
a value section, there is a place where you can list your interests, you can get connected to different groups. There's a lot of ways to connect with people and a lot of great events. I've been attending the
Mm,
Hire Women events virtually this week. They're free. That's a great platform for people to get connected. And there are people, like you said, that are wanting to help, wanting to champion each other. But I think it's important to recognize that this is a big message for hiring managers of like, let's normalize hiring people who have
yeah.
kids and hiring people who have kids and not seeing it as a negative, because I know many women aren't comfortable sharing that they have kids in job interviews. They don't feel safe or
Well,
comfortable
it's
sharing that
illegal
they're
for people to ask. So,
yeah, and there's a
yeah.
reason for that.
Yeah.
It's, and I hate that that's the case. And I would say anybody who's a parent is a better multitasker, a better coordinator, a better juggler of responsibilities than most. And they're more than qualified for most corporate jobs that are out there. And they'll probably knock it out of the park if given the chance, whether they've been out of work or not. So I think that's the message we want to get across here. I do see some good comments that I'm going to share on our
Oh, sure. I
screen.
can't. Oh, okay. Now I can see them.
Yeah,
Perfect.
now you can see them when I put them up. So Carly says
Yes.
the work done raising children shouldn't have to be corporified to be considered valuable on a resume. Exactly. We shouldn't have to package ourselves in order to show our value. If there's other folks in the chat who are tuning in live who've taken a career break and want to share their experience or share some of the the unique values they feel like they bring to the table having had a career break, please share them. I know coming back from maternity leave, I was terrified. I was starting a brand new job. I was terrified to get back into the routine. What if I forgot how to do a job? What if I not
You
good
just
with
made another human. I got faith in you. So
yeah, I
I
was
got
able
faith
to
in
do
you.
that successfully. So hopefully I can do this job successfully. But I was worried about being distracted too and being foggy. And I have to say, I told this to my husband the other day, I am more focused at work than I've ever been. I feel like I have been just at my peak in terms of performance. I don't know if it's because I have another mouth to feed and I feel like my work means more because I have a family now. I have a daughter. I want to set a good example for her, but I have no idea what it is. But I feel like as a working mom, I feel better than ever. So I'm like, this is a talent pool to look from when you're hiring. So that
I'm so
is
glad you shared that, because I think that a lot of times, and people have different experiences coming back, right? But I do think that a
oh
lot of
yeah.
people feel that renewed sense of purpose and
Yes.
self-driving. There's a certain kind of like momentum that we take through our life when we are like holding down the job and doing all the things and all that. But I think for a lot of people too, coming back part-time, and this is like going back to what we were saying about like what can employers do? It is
Yes.
crazy to me that we don't have more employers that have part-time positions, because it's, saving you from having to offer someone benefits if you don't want to do that, right? Although I know some companies are super progressive and now offer full benefits to part-time employees, but just allowing for a woman to, whether she's been on maternity leave and coming back in, or if it's a brand new hire, but they're coming off of a career break, right? What if you transition someone in part-time for the first 3 months and just onboarded them a little bit slower, but like you're really allowing them to get their feet wet? It's going to be less of a cost to the business.
Yeah.
You're shoring up your bets, right? So that like this person's going to be successful, but also too, think of the candidate pool that opens you up to, or even companies that say, hey, you can be full-time and work 33 hours, not 40 hours, right? And go for like a mother's, and go for like mother's hours essentially, which is what, like 10 to 3 or something like that. So think of the candidate pool that you would have to recruit from that your competition may not. And this is where, when we really think about strategic advantages in talent acquisition and proactive pipeline building, we can't avoid or ignore the fact that there's a huge population out there that's like, hey, I may need just like a slightly different schedule for like a little bit of time because I am the sole provider of my kid or whatever.
Yeah.
If you work with me, you're going to have the most loyal employee.
I'm going to get it done.
I'm going to be retained. I'm going to work hard. And improve my value. So I just think it's a huge missed opportunity for companies to not.
And sometimes these are the
specifically
people that are most
advertise this stuff.
qualified for the job. They've done the work before. They're bringing, comparable experience, but they're like, but now I'm in a new phase of life and I need an adjusted schedule. I need asynchronous hours. I need to work remotely. And the companies that are being rigid and saying absolutely not, it's company policy, you have to be on site 9 to 5, they're missing out. And I want to see this shift to a focus less on hours worked and more on results provided, like output. What is this person? What do I need the person in this role to produce for me?
Mhm.
If they get that done, I don't care if they did it in 20, 25, 30, 33 hours. Like they accomplished the results that I need them to. And I wish we could make a shift for that, because I think that would solve a lot of these problems.
That requires trust.
Mm-hmm.
And most companies just don't trust.
We all have trust issues. We have trust issues.
Literally. I mean, think about it. Every communication issue you have boils down to trust or mistrust.
Yep.
Every conflict.
What are micromanagers boils down to trust issues.
Control issues, trust issues. So there's a great book called Trust Factor by Paul Zak. It's a great book on this, but just really like that whole idea of I am hiring you, adult, whole professional here. I'm hiring you, going to pay you some money to do this job. But then all of a sudden, as soon as you come in, I disbelieve that you can do the job that I'm hiring you for. Like the control stuff with the micromanagement has been an Achilles heel of so many organizations. This goes back way prior to COVID as well. But I think, when it comes to this population that we're talking about, I'm going to show you every single day who I am. And if I give you a reason performance-wise, to your point, people want to throw around the word productivity. Performance-wise, if I'm not doing the job that you hired me to do, if the quality of the outcome is not what you're looking for, that deserves a conversation ASAP, right?
Yeah.
Don't wait for an annual review. Don't silently resent someone behind the scenes. Don't, hiring manager, start creating your own blind spots and bias so that now every time you look at resumes and you see career breaks, you're now applying that to what, Brenda in accounting is doing or whatever, and how this didn't work out. So we can't treat people like this. So I just think
I see this all the time with hiring managers. We hired this one person with this one background and this one time. So from now on, we will never hire anyone from XYZ background again. If that is the definition of discrimination, I don't know what is.
I'm like, so what you're telling me is,
so what you're saying,
this, and this, and not someone with this and this and this, right? So clarify the spec, right?
Yeah.
And then go back to market and find more people. But you're right. It's just this hot stove metaphor of like, oh, did that once, never again. And it's like,
right.
People
We've been
are
burned.
Human beings. Like,
give them a break.
Yeah. I really applaud the companies that clearly communicate schedules and expectations and hybrid, remote, fully on site. Yeah. What does hybrid mean to you? I fully applaud companies that very clearly articulate this stuff in the job descriptions, because people deserve the chance to self-select in or self-select out based on facts, not based on curated marketing and not based on how you want them to perceive the culture of the company. Like, be upfront and say, if it's a marketing position and that your marketing team works longer hours than anybody in the building, right? And say in the job description, this team works really hard and there are definitely some extra hours and we need someone who can commit to a heavier schedule at times. Period. Quality
lead to
quantity.
Better retention too, because you don't want to get somebody in, you don't want to mislead somebody into taking a job, then they're not happy, they leave after a month, and now you've got to start from scratch on the pipeline again.
Think of how much time you spend
and money wasted.
And candidates that say, well, I'm really, I really value work-life balance. I mean, I would say to candidates like, this isn't going to be this might not be the right job for you. And that's not me thinking you can't do it. I'm saying I hear
you'll be happy.
Yes. And I don't want to be having this conversation 3 months from now when you're coming into my office and saying, I think I made a mistake. And, so I think part of this is candidates having to really self-advocate for what they need, building in more transparency and clarity to the resume about what the transition looked like, right? Is it a especially like I know people that have had to move cross country because their spouse was military. And so they've got a lot of like short stops and short stints. And then we
can talk about short stints and how those are viewed too.
So everyone has a different situation, but hiring managers have to remember, like, this is a different time now. The employee-employer relationship is so different. The work-life relationship is so different. If you aren't thinking broadly and creatively, you're going to really struggle, not just retaining your people, but attracting the right people and then fostering a culture that retains them naturally. I mean, you're just constantly chasing your tail, backfilling people. So be clear, be transparent, let people self-select out if it's not the right opportunity or organization. I'm sorry, as a recruiter, I would so much rather have, instead of 100 candidates where 3 of them are maybe okay, I'd rather have 10 where 8 of them are great, because that we were so specific in the job description. It's saving us all time, but we're also looking at people that understand what they're signing up for.
Exactly. Well, I am keeping an eye on time, and I know we're coming close to our half-hour mark. I think we can go a little over because I do have 2 more quick questions to ask you. I do think there are some organizations that are doing this well. I think there's organizations out there that are supporting people who are returning from work. Do you want to highlight quickly some of those organizations that are meeting this need?
Absolutely. Pathforward.org. Pathforward.org. They are fantastic. Nonprofit that helps mostly women, but definitely some men too, come back from caregiver breaks. On average, the people that they support, I think 8 years is the average gap. They provide resources, but they, on a bigger scale, actually work with really great companies like SC Johnson, like big names, and they help create returnship programs in-house for these companies. Returnships as in specifically designed programs like an internship, but for someone who's returning to the workforce. These have been incredibly successful. HubSpot does a great one that they built in-house, I believe. I also see a lot of companies that have rotational programs. Again, we're talking about a population that you can kind of treat almost as if like an internship college graduate. They've got some really good skills and knowledge, but they're just going to need a little bit of training and onboarding. Think of this population. If you've been out of the workforce for 6 to 8 years, let's say, there's going to be some updated knowledge that we need here, right? But at the same time, like, the work ethic is there. Train me on what you need me to do.
These are things you can pick up in a day or 2. You can learn how to use the new Outlook. You can learn how to use LinkedIn.
Oh my God, give me a day. I can teach you how to learn Slack. You know what I mean? So it's come on, but and this is just, I think, again, Zoom. Companies need to get more creative, and they need to also accept that, like, this population is a really big population of candidates, and these people want to work. So get creative. They
have to work. Scheduling. Many of them have to literally work. They have to, and that's something I wanted to say earlier, is that sometimes we don't have the luxury of getting to pick and choose to work for the companies that'll best support us. We've got to get a job, and we've got to take a job. But these returnship programs, they sound amazing. And you mentioned rotational programs. Tell us briefly what that is as well.
Yeah, just so typically, let's say that somebody was coming in and they wanted to go into like an administrative role, right? Like a coordinator position, for example, and they were going to do 30 days in marketing, 30 days in finance, and 30 days in supply chain, supporting different teams, right? And then at the end of that rotation, they kind of get to choose which department they want to go into or move up within. So companies that are doing this are not only retaining a lot more of their candidates, but they're also they're kind of naturally building in this scope to that talent pool of, hey, I want you to understand, you can move up, move over. There's a whole bunch of different things in this company.
Figure out what's the best fit for you.
So that what happened, because again, we've all been in jobs where we're like, this is not the job for me. God, I really love this company though, but like, this isn't the role for me, right? And they go and they leave the company, when in hindsight, the company should have been like, could we have spared them? Could we have just really leveraged
another
them?
Capacity.
Totally. So companies, I go into organizations all the time and help them like create these returnship and internship programs and all of that. But I just think if you have the appetite to do it, you have the candidate pool that's ready.
Yeah. Well, hiring managers who are listening, definitely reach out to Krystal, get these programs set up. I think these are going to be hopefully the new trend and the way of the future when it comes to onboarding and hiring folks. Krystal, I appreciate your time today. This has been an amazing chat. We're gonna have you back for sure, because we could talk.
We could talk all day.
We got
it was hard to choose one topic. Yeah,
it was hard for us to choose a topic. Yeah, and I do have a closing question that I'm going to ask all my guests. I didn't give you a heads up that I was going to be asking this, but as a woman, when or where have you felt most empowered in your life?
Oof.
It's a big one.
When there's a lot of moments, I think, as a business owner, I've been running Job Talk for just about 5 years now, and being able to
Yes.
say no
Mhm.
to certain corporate clients that I just didn't believe how they were running their shop. And they came and wanted diversity programming, and to be able to say no and be like, you are so far from ready for that work.
Yeah.
And it's going to tokenize the people that you're trying to hire. I think that was for me, like the best moment of being like, God, I just, that no felt real good.
That felt good. I
Yeah.
love it. I love that. That's a great answer. Well, thank you again, Krystal. It's amazing to have you on. Thanks for everybody who tuned in. We'll be back. This will be happening every Thursday at 11:30 Eastern, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, Krystal.
Bye, guys.
Bye.